Can you write while you're on cocaine?
I've never done cocaine. I haven't really written while drunk. I guess it worked for Hemingway, but it hasn't worked for me. Welcome to Movie Pain or Pleasure Podcast, the show that is both fast and furious.
Is it though?
I don't know. Sometimes it is. Sometimes I talk too fast.
When there's cocaine.
We don't do cocaine. However, in honor of the absurd movie that we're going to review and talk about and slog through, I picked out the most absurd thing from my liquor collection. My parents like to buy gift boxes at the liquor store in their town, and so I always get these itty bitty bottles of whiskey or vodka, and this is a little jar of Old Smoky Moonshine from Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and it says on the top, White Lightning, apostrophe, spirits distilled from corn. And it's in this tiny mason jar. Absolutely ridiculous. Which is also what we're talking about. So, AJ, what?
I thought I was joking.
No. AJ, what are we talking about?
Apparently moonshine.
Oh, ooh, this smells like whiteout.
Ew.
Smell it.
What the fuck?
Let's see what it tastes like. Ooh, it actually tastes good.
It doesn't taste like ouzo?
It tastes a little bit like ouzo, and I like ouzo. The dangerous thing is, I thought this was going to be like, oh god, I can't swallow it. But it actually goes down pretty smooth. I feel like this 2 shots worth could be pretty strong, so I'm going to put the top back on and pace my way through it very slowly.
But we're not putting the cap on this film.
And what film are we talking about? I'm going to hold it up while you talk about it.
Fast 9.
You guys, look at this picture, and if you're just listening to the podcast, we'll put a picture up on Instagram. The picture from the DVD. I want to point out my second favorite character, ludicrous Chris Bridges, who has the most serious look on his face, and he's holding a gun. And like, he's just one of the funniest characters.
He looks like he's in like a Predator movie.
He does. He's like, I'm gonna get you. It doesn't even look like him. It's like a bad drawing of Ludacris.
Maybe Luda wanted to be like real. Like, I'm gonna be hard in this one. I'm gonna be the tough guy.
No, he was just smart aleck Tej as always. So, in honor of Fast 9, which we own all of the Fast and Furious movies, other than Hobbs and Shaw, which is, I think it's actually better than this one. So, I'm wearing a white men's tank top. I've got a cross necklace on. And I do have a half-sleeve tattoo that's in honor of my niece, so I guess that's my dedication to family. She gets to watch all of these podcasts of her aunt being weird.
I have a panda on my arm. That's my family thing.
Yeah, so we're all about family. Okay, oh my god, this freaking movie. So, I need to take another sip of this moonshine just to get myself in the mood of the absurd. So, why don't you talk a little bit about it and our history with the Fast and Furious movies? Because this is a guilty pleasure, I promise you, but we're going to be doing a lot of complaining and just like, oh, what the fuck?
It makes no sense.
I think the thing is, we first saw the movie in the movie theater, and you can't stop and talk about it, so you just kind of have to accept it. Maybe this was our mistake, because it took us like a couple of hours to get through the movie, because we'd stop and question it.
Well, that's a couple hours on top of the actual time, because it's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it took us 2 days to watch it. But I think that's where we...
If you're gonna watch it, you gotta turn your brain off.
Yeah, which we didn't do. We questioned it.
You can question every once in a while, but just accept it. We were like, because we were in the mindset of questioning, we just kept going and going and going and going and...
Oh, wow, okay, that moonshine's strong. You drive yourself crazy watching this movie.
We've already done a podcast on this that no one knows about because... it was like the first one we did on Twitch, and I didn't set up to save it, so that sucks. But anyway, basically, I made Melanie start watching these with me because I'd only seen a couple of them when I was younger, and I didn't remember anything particularly special. I liked Tokyo Drift, but I don't know. And then I caught the beginning of one of them when I was visiting my brother, and it looked so ridiculous. And I remembered the original ones just being about driving cars that I was like, I gotta go and watch all of these and see how it leads up to this soap opera of coke insanity action film.
Yeah, it's gone from And I think the other kind of mistake we made was watching it in isolation, because you have to really be in the right mood for this movie. We've been watching Euphoria, which that messes with your head in a totally different way. So you go from that to F9, and you really have to warm yourself up with some of the earlier movies, because it just goes from like we drive fast cars to complete over-the-top James Bond spy caper.
Yeah, and it doesn't even make sense. Like, this one goes so quick that they don't care if you keep up, which is kind of fine. Like, I don't care how things happen most of the time, because I know it's just people sitting, it's probably a 10-year-old sitting at a writing desk telling his like uncle, his favorite uncle, to write this in the story, and his uncle doesn't give a shit because he's on cocaine and
Isn't that how
PCP and whiskey.
That's how Axe Cop got started? The cartoon Axe Cop?
Probably. And so it's just like, put this in the script, and Uncle's like, I don't know what that is. He's like, do it, and he's like, okay. Technobabble, the eye of God, I can turn people's organs to soup. Whatever. So anyway, it's insanity. So we might as well just
we're gonna dive
right in.
We're gonna dive in.
We're gonna spoil the whole thing, except for one little thing that happens after the credits, which I guess we'll watch after the credits.
Yeah.
We didn't watch after the credits when we were in theater because we didn't know this was a superhero
it's
movie. It's
absurd. We're gonna say what happens, but we'll give you a warning in case you want to see for yourself.
But it's a superhero movie.
Basically, it's like a Marvel movie.
So we get the first flashback of like 4 or 5.
Oh wait, can I say what my title for this movie is?
No.
I call it F9: The Gaslighting, in more ways than one, because you're just like, this isn't. How can this happen? In movies, like, it's happening though. It's gonna happen. This is how things work now. This
Logic,
is how cars work.
numbers, physics.
We're not crazy,
as Tej says.
You're crazy. Maybe you need a little bit of help. Maybe you should just watch this movie a little bit more. So anyway, why don't you start off with our scene in 1989?
That's when it was? Okay.
That's when the flashback happened.
Whatever. So we get a young Dom and his dad on the track the day that his dad exploded.
And don't say who the other person is, because we don't know who he is yet. There was another young man.
Just the pit crew.
Yeah, pit crew.
And it wasn't like spontaneous combustion. He hit a wall and blew apart like in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Although, I don't know why he didn't just jump out the window like his son would have.
Okay, that was the thing. Yeah, his father is a race car driver, and this other guy kind of bumps into him, and he goes up on the chain link fence, and it just explodes immediately. Like, it vaporizes, and we're like... And then you spend the next 2.5 hours watching cars run into... like
everything.
20 cars on the street and flying through buildings and falling off cliffs.
And catching people on cars.
Yeah, they catch
multiple times.
Multiple times.
Which, I mean, I know everybody knows about this scene in, like, is it 6?
Where he jumps over the bridge? That's 6. Yeah.
Okay, and they land on a car, and I'm like, okay, that's insane. But that car wasn't moving. And Vin Diesel is thick, so maybe...
Yeah, this dude's dense.
But
he can't
this
fly
was like, they were just ping-ponging people off of cars.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but his father doesn't have that magic.
So we just gotta have that opening, and then which the casting for young Dom was pretty good, honestly.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that the kid's, like, obviously Hispanic, and Dom is not. I don't know what he is, but he's not obviously Hispanic. Although Mia is, I don't know. Anyway. And then we get the Toretto cabin, the ranch, or whatever.
And this is modern day. This is Dom and Letty and Dom's son, Brian, who he had with the Brazilian lady.
Good for them. They don't lie to him.
No.
They flat out tell him he's not adopted like Dom is his dad, but they tell him he has a mom that died.
And she's in heaven and stuff, so
she's watching over you. Yeah. So...
But this house is really cozy looking. It's really, like, it's a log cabin, but it's nice. It's a nice big house on all this land.
I mean, he probably could have made he probably had that made from scratch. Like, they walked away with millions, like, every movie or something, so by this point...
Yeah, stealing oil is pretty good money.
They probably got that guy that rebuilt that old windmill, whatever, for Hell's Kitchen or whatever it was. Kitchen Nightmares. They paid him to make him a log cabin.
That was amazing. His restaurant sucked, but the building was beautiful. So anyway.
Super random tangent, sorry. Anyway, so they're having I don't know, I guess Dom is just working on his car because...
Of course he is.
He can't do literally anything else. He probably takes his car apart and puts it back together every day.
Oh, he's showing his son how to work on it.
So his 4-year-old is helping him, and he's actually, this is the best I've ever seen a father at a car teaching his son about the car. Because all dads teaching their kids about cars are terrible at it. They just scream at you for holding the light wrong, and then they scream at you for not helping when they expect you to help. And then when you help them, they're like, "What are you doing? Like, stay over there." Like, so it makes you twitchy. But Dom's not like that. He's actually talking to his kid. But then they hear cars that they don't know about, and Letty and Dom look at each other like, "Okay, someone's coming to murder us." So they put their kid in the pen.
No, they tell him to go. So they have done this drill with Brian. It's like at the beginning of Rogue One, where the stormtroopers show up.
It's exactly like that.
It's the exact beginning of Rogue One where Jyn, I think is her name, and her parents are being hunted by the Empire, and so she goes and she hides in this underground bunker, and that's exactly what little Brian does. And he's just like, "Okay, time to go hide in my bunker." He knows exactly what to do.
They don't hand him a pistol.
No, because he pulls out a shotgun, she pulls out a pistol.
Which, I mean, granted, home defense, but I'm not sure they're the best option.
Shotguns
if you're
look cool.
They
look cool. They make that noise. That's cool.
Like,
so, guns aren't cool.
Dom
but
consistently
cool
runs around with a shotgun throughout the film, and fires at people with full-on military rifles, which would be able to hit him from way farther than he can shoot them. But
yeah,
whatever.
Anyway, are they friends or foes?
This is Roman and Tej show up.
And
Ramsay?
Missandei, basically. Yeah, we've been watching, we're watching Game of Thrones, so it's the chick who plays Missandei is Ramsay, which there's also a Ramsay in Game of Thrones, so it's very confusing.
Yeah, and also, we realized that so in the final season of Game of Thrones was very teleporty. Like, people just appeared in parts of Westeros where they shouldn't have, because it should have taken days or weeks or months. And in this movie is exactly the same. Like, we don't see anybody sleep, except once when they get knocked out. We don't see anybody eat.
Go to the bathroom.
Take a shower. We don't see anybody ever stop to do anything. We don't see days changing into nights. It's just, they're here, then they're there, then they're here, then they're there.
Maybe.
No hours, no days, no nothing. It's like spanning 2 weeks worth of time.
They keep skipping time zones. It's like at the end of Little Monsters, how they had to keep kind of beating the sunrise, so they had to keep skipping time zones.
So if they kept going back and forth between the time zones, does that mean by the end of the movie they come back and they're like, "So that was like 3 weeks, right?" They're like, "No, that was like 3 days."
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
I guess so. They're on meth and PCP and everything.
Speaking of that, we have chocolate cake to eat after this, so let's get things rolling.
So they show up and immediately we have a mission. Like, they might as well have had a Mission Impossible tape that
Basically,
explodes.
that's what it was.
And you don't know what the fuck the mission is. All you know is nobody had some...
As in Mr. Nobody, played
Mr.
by
Nobody
Kurt Russell.
Not the good Nobody.
With Bob Odenkirk?
Yeah.
Mr. Nobody with Kurt Russell. He would
be an interesting addition. But Kurt Russell has some Skype call with somebody, and he sends out this signal, and it looks like... I don't know why they're still doing this, where the video is getting scratchy, and it's moving, and it's... Oh my god, they're coming in. Come from the left. And it's all moving, and... It's like old VHS technology. Like, that doesn't happen on screens anymore. That's not... Either the signal's there, or it's not, or it's buffering. But,
yeah, so
he... Whatever. Somebody's attacking him, and now we have to find out why, and go get a thing that he was protecting.
Yeah, his plane was shot down, and so there was a device or something that they need to go get. So this is basically a video game, so it's like what would you call like a magic object that they need to go get?
Yeah, it's a McGuffin.
It's a McGuffin.
That's the name for an object you seek.
We didn't have that term back in my 8-bit Nintendo days, but I'll take your word for it.
I mean, I think it's more of a fantasy term than it is a game term.
This movie's based definitely a fantasy.
Whatever. It's a MacGuffin mission.
So they go to a made-up country called Monte Quinto in Central America, and that's not me being an ignorant American. I looked it up just to make sure. I'm like, I've never heard of that.
It sounds legit.
So.
It'd be funny if you looked up what that name translated to and it didn't make any sense.
Well, Quinto, that might be like 5 mountains or something. I don't know.
Just saying.
And I have a note in here. I keep thinking of things I really like about Hobbs and Shaw. I like this movie. It's fun, but it's exhausting. And Hobbs and Shaw is a round the world caper too, but it's funnier. And it's actually a little more believable. It's still completely unbelievable.
Even though there's like nanotechnology that makes Idris Elba like a superhuman.
And also, The Rock is holding a chain attached to a helicopter attached to a truck, and his arms don't rip off.
He's a rock.
Yes, he is the Rock.
You can't rip a rock apart with just some chains.
Okay. And what I like about this is Roman starts to question things. He becomes the meta voice of reason, and Roman is played by Tyrese Gibson, and he's my favorite character, not just because we share the same last name, but I've always liked him since he appeared in the second movie, because he's a badass, and he's a smart aleck and everything, but he's always a little more hesitant to do the crazy stuff that the gang gets into. Like in 7, my favorite thing is him sitting in a car inside a plane, and he's like, "Cars don't fly! Cars don't fly!" Ah, and he's screaming as they throw this car out of a plane with a parachute, which, good for him. He's the only one that knows that would be sending them all to their fiery doom.
It's kind of like he's the only person who actually remembers where he came from.
Yeah.
Like, he knows he's just a small-time criminal that could drive pretty well. And that's it.
Yeah.
And now he's going on international spy missions. So he's the only one that decided to bring Kevlar vests. Although he should have brought a bigger gun, but oh well. And
it doesn't matter.
Giant tank of a vehicle, which I don't know how they buy these things. The way they buy cars, and the cars they buy, it's kind of insulting to people who actually love cars. Because usually for some reason, Dom has to have like a classic Trans Am, and it has a perfect body, which means whoever owned this before he dropped in that country and bought it, like, really took care of it. And these are usually not American countries, so that means it was extra hard to keep up on that shit.
And they wreck the shit out of these cars.
And they get them shot up with bullets and smash them into stuff.
There's a big shooting match, and then Roman kind of has a moment where he's getting shot. He is down. He has the least advantageous point. He is down in a hole, basically. They're all shooting at him, and he kills all of them, and he kind of looks around. It's like that moment in Pulp Fiction where they shoot at John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. They look around, and they're like, wait a minute, it's a miracle.
It always makes me think of Shanghai Noon, but yeah, that too.
Yeah, so he just kind of starts saying things. He'll say things to Tej, who's played by Ludacris, and he's like, maybe we're invincible, or maybe we're a superhero, and they kind of play along like, oh, maybe, and they're like, you're stupid, you're a dumbass.
I think Tej is the first person who's gonna accidentally kill himself, because he's just like, you're an idiot, this is totally possible, and he does some shit that's obviously not possible. They're going to become the characters at the beginning of the other guys that Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock played, where they jump off of a rooftop because they have survived insane events for so long.
Yeah.
They think they can do literally anything, and they just jump onto the concrete and die.
Or like in Tropic Thunder, where the director's walking around like, I am God, and he steps on a landmine. Oh, I could see Tej doing that. And they drive, okay, the government of Monte Quinto or whatever shows up, and they're like, hey, you can't be here, and they start shooting at them. There's a crazy chase. It reminds me of like the stormtrooper chases through Endor.
Yeah,
it was basically a chase through Endor, through the jungle, and they drive through, if they drive fast enough, they can outrun the landmines.
Dom takes it takes a long time too. He keeps coming back and forth with Tej like, hey, how fast do we have to drive literally over landmines and get past the explosion, which the cars behind them are driving just as fast, but it doesn't work.
But they get blown up because they're not main characters.
Whatever. And Roman doesn't even reach the number that he says. And he's just like, tank. Pray for it, bro. But he's like, he just keeps saying, how fast? And Ted's like, that's not how this works. I don't know. How fast? I know you know. And
it has to be fast and furious.
80. And he just throws out 80. Like like the fucking movie Eagle Eye, if anyone remembers that moment with Shia LaBeouf. It like his Eagle Eye computer tells him drive 88 to get through the traffic and you won't get hit by any of the cars coming.
And you travel back in time.
Yeah, I just picked 88. It probably wasn't 88.
Okay,
but anyway,
so they drive past landmines.
They drive so fast over landmines they only explode behind them.
And then two big things happen. Tej is in a Jeep with Roman and Ramsey, and he's driving. And there's a bridge because Missandei, Ramsey.
Whoa. Did we jump over the part where Roman lost his own vehicle?
Oh, I don't know.
And he didn't die?
No, okay, we did. So you explain that part because then we have to get to the part about the bridge. You guys, this movie, I can't.
So there's winding and winding through the trees, and at some point Letty's on a
like a dirt
bike. Which, for no strategic advantage, there's no reason for her to be on a dirt bike. They're on country that a Jeep would have done just as well in, and everyone else is in a car. She's just out in the open, ready to get hit and shot.
At one point, this vehicle flies over her head for no reason. We never see the vehicle, but
No,
it would have knocked her head clean off.
But anyway, so she or Dom or both of them somehow lose control of the little orb. It looks like a turtle shell.
It's like half of one.
And then who appears but fucking John Cena. John Cena appears and he leans out of the door, picks it up, and just looks at Dom and then sticks it in his pocket and drives away. So now the chase is after John Cena, who we don't know anything about yet. And at some point they'll go through it's like a cavern cliff area, and everyone gets through but Roman, and he starts falling through. His truck gets stuck, and he has to kick his windshield out, which was super easy.
And it's above a landmine.
He barely pushes on it, which I call bullshit on. My dad got T-boned once, 6 months after he had a stroke, and he had to kick his Nissan's windshield out, with his good leg, and it wasn't just and it flipped open. And that was just a Nissan pickup. It wasn't some military vehicle. But anyway, so we're waiting to see Roman get out before his car falls on a landmine. He jumps out somehow. He kicks the window out, and he rolls away. He doesn't run away. He rolled away 4 feet. The explosion doesn't affect him at all, but the vehicle flips over and smashes him, or it appears.
We think it looks like Ramsey and Tej are standing there watching.
We kind of know it's not.
No, because they're just oh, darn.
Because, yeah, they were just
that's not how you would react. You'd be, screaming.
They look at each other, and that's it. Aren't you gonna, scream for your dead, your teammate? But no, and then he just walks around and he looks kind of drunk because he's probably popped both of his eardrums.
Roman's like in a Bugs Bunny cartoon, did somebody get the number of that bus? And just wanders off.
And Tej is just how are you alive? And,
see?
And Roman just walks past him and he gets to their car and then he gets in.
Okay.
So now we're at leading up to the bridge. And at some point during all this, I think Dom caught Letty on his hood.
Yeah, she gets off the dirt bike and gets in the car, so I'm going to say...
She got thrown off of her dirt bike, and he caught her with the hood of his car.
So which happens first? The plane catching the car, or the Jeep driving over the bridge?
Tej goes first over the bridge with the Jeep. And it starts to fall off of one side of the cliff.
And it's this rickety wooden rope bridge. It would collapse immediately.
Somehow there's enough structural integrity for them to just keep going on the boards up over to the other side.
And Roman's screaming the whole time, which is apt. He's really the most realistic character in this whole movie because he's just screaming why?
So then we get, what's his name, just shoots out.
John Cena.
John Cena shoots out into the void of sea, and we see a plane come down and grab his car and just take off, and I'm assuming he shit himself because he was free falling and hoping I hope this works, and then we get the yo-yo.
Okay, so the Jeep has gone over the bridge is gone, but there is a rope dangling. So Explain that part. I need
Jesus.
more of this moonshine to get through this. This stuff is good.
We're like burning through this pretty quick, but this is like...
There's so much that happens, you guys, though. Oh my god.
Like, it's not dragged out exactly. It's just so much is going immediately.
It's almost the opposite.
Go.
It's almost, there's so much that you're just like, what?
Like, it's the opposite of perfect pacing where you never question the time. Like, the pacing's so fast you're questioning the time. It's really weird.
Like, okay, when we talked about the Spider-Man movie that we just saw,
Yeah,
it was a really long movie, but the pacing was good.
Boom, boom, boom.
There
Perfect.
were a lot of action happening, but there were down times too, because you can't just have like action all the time. You got to have some quieter moments where and there are moments like this in this movie, but I mean, it's meant to be a movie about fast cars.
It's meant to be insane.
It does exactly what it promises.
It is supposed to be insane. It's the 9th movie, so of course they're going to do
And they're
these
making
things.
a 10th one, so they've already got me. I mean, I've already practically bought the movie tickets because I have to see what they do.
Crossover with Jurassic Park. It's time.
Oh, yeah. It has to be.
Anyway, so, okay. So...
Because you know what Jurassic Park is about. Family.
Dinosaur families?
Family.
So...
The Yo-Yo Bridge.
Dom would be on the side of the dinosaurs, probably.
They didn't ask to be recreated.
Yeah, it's like they care about their families just like us. Anyway,
protect those eggs.
he starts riding a velociraptor. Because they're fast. And they're very furious.
And they're furious. The T-Rex is furious. She's screaming the whole time. Okay, so talk about the Yo-Yo Bridge.
God.
Fuck. Oh, my God.
So... It looks like Dom is going to pull the exact same stunt as John Cena. So he's revving up and he's like, no, I know what you're thinking, don't do it. Which, how? I hope that she thought she knew what he was thinking, but she was wrong. I hope she didn't literally know exactly this is what he was going to do. So he was like, if I drive straight at this chunk of wood that is holding a wire, that's the last structural piece, I can get it stuck in the axle, and then we will swing like a yo-yo to safety onto the other cliff, and then not die from the rolling impact, and our car will definitely not explode.
It would yank the axle. I mean, the axle would be dangling, and the rest of the car is going down into the ocean.
At some point in the movie, Dom was talking to, I think it was Mia, and he's like, ever since Dad died, I've been thinking about, like, family and, like, being a dad or something like that. Or since Brian was born, I've been thinking about my dad. And I wonder if he's thankful to his dad for dying. Because through his sacrifice, they have become superheroes. Mm-hmm. Without his father dying, he would have just been a mechanic or a pit crew man or something. He wouldn't be a fucking superhero. So they survive the whiplash yo-yo car.
Because of course they do. This is at the beginning of the movie. It's
insanity.
Okay, and I like a line that Roman has. He's like, who does that? And somebody says, a Toretto. So this is the next Avengers movie, basically.
So, from here... Is this when they find the underground lair?
There's two things. They find Mr. Nobody's underground lair, and there's a flashback. So it is revealed that John Cena is Dominic's younger brother, Jacob. And so there's a flashback to, we don't really know exactly the things around his father's death yet, but it's a flashback to right after his dad dies. The driver who kind of bumped his dad off the road comes over to look at the wreck, and Dom, understandably, is like, hey, that's not cool. Get out of here. And the guy talks some shit to him, so he takes a wrench. Actually,
it's his little brother.
Jacob does it. He takes the wrench, and Dom comes. He's like, hey, no, be cool. But then the guy says something to piss him off, so Dom beats the living hell out of this guy and goes to jail. And I guess that's the start of Dom's life in and out of jail.
Which... Maybe I should have gone back and watched that scene from the first movie where he talks about it, because he seems like in the first movie he regrets doing it.
Yeah.
Because the guy is crippled. Like, he can't drive at all, he's just a janitor.
He's probably brain damaged, he bashed him in the head with a wrench.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to be the same as the way he explained it. Like, the way he explained it in the first movie, he just kept hitting the dude, and he didn't say in the face, but, you know... He just kept hitting the dude until he couldn't pick up his arm.
Until
anymore.
Dom couldn't pick up his arm to swing the wrench, right?
In this, he hits him like 2 times, and some guy comes over and stops him.
I feel like if you hit somebody with a wrench so many times you couldn't lift your hand, they're not a person anymore. They're a stain on the ground.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But okay,
So he goes to jail, and so we're kind of wondering, like, when was the rift between Dom and his brother? What happened?
And it's the first time we get to see that he has a brother. And then when they're talking in the lair, which they're just like. I don't remember the moment where they're like, hey, let's go to the Ninja Turtle lair.
Yeah, Mr. Nobody has this Ninja Turtle lair somewhere under the ocean in Europe somewhere, and so it's got all the technology and weapons and stuff.
And they just let themselves in.
Yeah, everything works.
I guess Ramsey's still working with him. Maybe that's the explanation. I
guess.
It like I said, they're so quick.
She's like, sometimes I have to close, so I've got the keys. And
this is why you don't question any of it. You just let it go, and you enjoy the stupidity, and you laugh at how ridiculous it is.
And then meanwhile, we get a flash to kind of who the villains are in this. So there's this rich, spoiled son of a diplomat who who wants, what they're after is a big nuclear weapon type of thing. And John Cena is working for him because he has become some sort of super spy. And we don't know the backstory, but they have also captured Cypher.
It's like in their blood.
Yeah. He's captured Cypher, who was the villain from 8. And she's played by Charlize Theron.
With a stupid haircut.
Oh my god, her haircut's so dumb. It's a bowl cut. She looks like... Okay, you know the Vincent marionettes in Toy Story 4 that were the evil minions of that doll in the antique shop? They're so creepy. That's what she looks like. And they got her in this glass box. She's basically Hannibal Lecter because she talks shit. It doesn't make sense either. She talks shit to the guy that's holding her captive, and I guess they're making her work for them. So they're seeking... I don't know.
I still don't understand the box. Like, she's just... Every time they show her, she's sitting in the same glass box, and there's nothing in there.
Not even a pot to piss in.
How does... I guess they could feed her, but, like, do they have to keep cuffing her and taking her to the restroom and then coming back and sticking her in the box? Like, I feel like she could just be in the room and be chained to the floor.
See, this shows that we've been in each other's lives for a long time, because I would always question things. I'm a woman over 40, so of course my thought is always like, when do you go to the bathroom? And he would always roll his eyes at me. But now, I've caught you a couple of times, you're like, but how do they go to the bathroom?
It just makes sense here. Like, what? Well, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are you sticking her in a
yeah.
Even Magneto in his plastic room of whatever in the X-Men movies, it was like a prison room. He had a toilet. Like,
yeah, and so
he had a sink.
She's Hannibal Lecter because she's talking shit to this guy. She's talking shit to John Cena like, Genghis Khan had a little brother. Nobody knew who he was either. Fly away, starling, fly, fly, fly.
What the fuck? I immediately paused because, like, John Cena and her talk shit. She says some racist shit about how I didn't realize your family had any Anglo in it, but you have a brick of a jaw, so I guess I was wrong, or something.
He does have quite a brick of a jaw.
Something like that. She talks about his jaw and mentions, I didn't see any Anglo in your heritage, in your brother's heritage or something, which sounded like it was like, hey, maybe you're not related? Like, maybe you're half-brothers. But that never came up again. Like, it didn't come to fruition that he wasn't blood.
Yes, but you had some thoughts about the jawlines.
Yeah, like, there are people from all over the world with strong jaws.
Check this out, you guys. Check out this jawline. I've got way back Cherokee ancestry, but more recently Eastern European. So that's where I get the cheekbones and the jaw. Like, this is from Lithuania right here.
What?
So John Cena, top this.
It was just weird. Like, I know she's evil, but it was like this random bit of Nazism just sprinkled in.
Micah, you don't quite look as Aryan as I'd hoped you would.
Well,
okay.
with a jaw like that, you can't be Mexican. You must be Anglo.
Yeah, but...
Which, who even says Anglo, but...
I don't know. People who shouldn't say Anglo
Dear
anymore.
Lord. So then he's walking away after her racist tirade.
It was weird.
And she whispers...
Our point is, lots of people can have square jaws.
Yeah, like,
all over the
I don't
world.
understand, like, what that was. It not only was it racist, it didn't make sense. But...
And if you're gonna be racist...
It might as well make sense.
Yeah.
And
don't be racist.
And then she like whispers like Gary Kahn. and he just stops. He's like, what? In which, if I was him and I'm talking to a supervillain, and I'm kind of a supervillain, and I'm like, fuck this bitch, and I walk away, and she whispers like, I don't know,
Roger Clinton,
like menage a trois Einstein. I'm like, I'm gonna keep walking. I don't, like, that doesn't mean anything. So why would I turn around and like, what about this Einstein? What's up? So, but he takes the bait, and I guess Genghis Khan had a little brother. Genghis Khan had a lot of family. We're all his family.
Probably. Apparently, he fucked everybody.
Apparently,
so, yeah.
a quarter of the population of the entire world is his family. So,
yeah. So we go back to the secret hideout, and Roman is again. He's like, we've been on some insane missions, and yet not a scratch. And he's questioning. And I do like this movie is freaking insane, but I do like the meta-ness of just
Roman
questioning it. Roman's questioning it the whole time, and like, yes, Roman, thank you, because it's like a really tight balloon, and it's just letting off a little bit of the pressure. So it's just like, oh, thank God,
somebody. And Tesh is like egging him on.
Yeah.
Until he calls him an idiot.
And then Mia shows up. Their Dom's sister, and we're like, who's watching the babies? Because she has a kid.
Not only that, who told her how to get there?
She just shows up. I just let myself in.
Letty? Maybe?
Yeah, because Letty called her. And she's like, she's got to be... I'm like, this bitch has never been on the missions.
I guess Letty was like, hey, your brother's in on this or something.
Oh, Jacob, yeah.
You should come here and whatever. And that's... Like, the scene before that is when Dom told the crew, like... Because they're like, who's that guy? He does shit that only someone like you would do. And he's like... Because his name is Toretto. And they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and so Brian, wink, wink, is watching their child and little Brian. So somebody's watching the babies. They at least wrote that in for people like me. I'm always one of those people who are like, I get mad when people don't shut doors in movies after they open them, or they order a plate of food and then they immediately get up to go to their next quest or whatever, or say their next line.
It is funny they never once tried to like show anything about the kids at all. They're just like, they're somewhere. They're somewhere. They exist.
Brian's watching him, and I was like, I wish Paul Walker were still alive for a number of reasons, but I was just like, just give me one scene of him in like an apron, and there's a pot boiling on the stove, and the kids are crying, and the dog is barking, and the phone is ringing, and he's got stuff in the oven, and he's just like, this never ends. Oh.
So he's just Mr. Mom now?
Yeah, he's Mr. Mom, and he's taking care of the babies, and Dom calls him, and he's like, what? I don't have time for this. I have diapers to change.
Yeah. Anyway,
I just needed that one scene, just recognizing that somebody's watching these babies. So they find out, okay, the mission is this thing called Project Aries, and there are these two turtle shells. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Aries?
Aries, like the god of war. Yeah, Aries.
That makes sense, because
it's always Aries.
We can control missiles.
Yeah, so there's this one half of a turtle shell hidden somewhere, and there's this other half of a turtle shell. And if you put them together and you have the key, then they send up a satellite, and they can control every weapon in the world, every electronic device. So you could point nukes at everybody.
The Avengers really need to exist in this universe, because every other week they have something that could destroy the whole world. This one's missiles that one person can point at everyone, and then Hobbs and Shaw, it was virus that murders everyone in 24 hours, and then before that it was God's Eye, and you could just look at well, that already exists.
That already exists, and I feel like with this one, there's probably somebody in the government or the Secret or CIA or somebody watching like, that's a good idea. We should totally do that. We should do that.
I wonder if in the next one they'll do like some Kingsman mind control thing. Is the McGuffin that
I hope they have Elton John in a cage like they did in the Kingsman too. Okay, so Project Aries, and then there's a screen saying, "Oh, there's another secret key to this." And it's somehow she's explaining all of it. She's giving us some exposition, and the screen is just very helpfully displaying through
perfectly
screensavers,
displaying like,
showing like
the threats.
Yeah, the Project Aries, and pointing at all the weapons, and then there's like, and there's another hidden part of this puzzle, and Han's face pops up. And they're all like, what?
Dun, dun, dun.
He's alive?
Which is so
and then there's
dumb.
a really long flashback back to young Dom and Jacob Dom blames Jacob for their father's death. So he comes to this car race.
Oh, because this is how he met
the two funny guys.
I don't know if they're Brazilian or...
I think they're Dominican.
Yeah, they're Dominican.
Yeah, so he was in juvie or something, and he meets the Dominican guys working on a car, and they said, "Oh yeah, there's this."
To notice something like a fuel line intentional leak to like make a car malfunction to throw a race to make it look like really legit. Although I don't know why you can't like just drive a little slower.
Just slow down a little bit.
Or get in a wreck that doesn't explode your car. Yeah, but
they had to get rid of the dad. He's a Disney dad.
Dom does have a water moment, so maybe he's a Disney princess.
So anyway, Dom he has that moment where he's like, oh, the Kill Bill music plays and stuff, and so he thinks...
sees that Jacob was the last person under the hood, and he must have...
So he thought that Jacob intentionally did that to somehow kill their father, so he gets out of jail. He goes to they have the one little street race scene with the hot girls and stuff, and Jacob's there, he's gonna race his car, and Dom shows up. And there's a very young Letty and a very young Mia.
They look nothing like the actresses.
Not at all. Not even close. Yeah.
The actress that plays Mia has so not a nose compared to Mia.
Yeah, she
no
does
offense,
not...
they're both pretty, but...
In very different ways. Like, this girl would not grow up to be Jordana Brewster. So, Dom's basically like, okay, if you win, you get my car and you get to come back home. And if I win, you just keep on driving and I never see you again. So, of course, what happens?
Dom wins because Dom is Dom.
I mean, that's actually the only predictable thing that happens in this movie, so... Other than them surviving everything.
Yeah, it's... oh, God.
So,
and then he has his, like... He literally, once they finish the race, Jacob really just
keeps driving. And he becomes a supervillain, and it's... That might be a really interesting story, but we don't know, like, how did he go from 16 to 40 and become a supervillain?
Yeah, because at some point he's just like, I've been running jobs for nobody for years. Like,
so yeah, he was
fucking
also...
what? Like, were you...
Everybody's been a secret spy for Mr. Nobody, including Han.
All of these people who were, like, probably high school dropouts, too, which, that's totally cool, but... It's, like, where did you pick up this... knowledge?
I admire people who do that because I did all the things that my boomer parents said I was supposed to do. I went to college, I went to graduate school, I got a corporate job with benefits and stuff, and I'm a corporate drone, and it's fine, it pays well, whatever, I have a good life, but it's just like, these people are off doing all these cool things, and I could have just become like a spy or a techno wizard or something.
Or a drug dealer.
I would have paid off my house sooner had I been a drug dealer. Follow your dreams, kids, be drug dealers. Okay, so we cut to, speaking of Han, what were you going to say?
Oh, just go.
Yeah, Mia and Letty are in Tokyo looking for Han. And then we're like, well, if Han didn't die, did Giselle really die?
Yeah,
we never saw a body.
There's no reason to believe that anybody died if Han is still alive. Because Han totally got exploded.
Oh, man, they are retconning the shit out of this
stuff. Which they already retconned the first time. Because at some point... It wasn't just that Han died from a car explosion from getting hit while being chased by small-time mobsters. That wasn't the reason the car exploded. Deckard Shaw was the reason the car exploded. But then, it wasn't even Deckard Shaw. Shaw thought he killed Han, and later the whole crew forgave him for it.
Yeah, they were all friends by the end of it.
But he thought he killed him, but it wasn't even him. It was Mr. Nobody.
As a cover-up, so somebody wouldn't... Whatever.
Who waited for the exact moment to sneak his body away.
Okay, and so there's
Well, like, how did he know Deckard Shaw was going to blow up that car at that time? And how did he know that Han was going to be in a wreck so that explosion could happen? And
there's a line, I wrote it down in quotes, so I guess somebody in the movie said it, but it sounds like we would say it. Leave it to Mr. Nobody to confuse everyone. So I feel like he just goes back and retcons.
That was Letty. She just sounds so tired. She's just like, fucking Mr. Nobody. Son of a bitch.
Just confuses everyone. I'm like,
tired
thank
and
you.
Confused. Which all these people, like, every time they find some tech info or some old files, I would be a fucking idiot. I would not know what any of it means. They could have his exact, like, high school diploma and dental records, and I'd be like, what is this gibberish? What am I supposed
What
to
does
do
this
with this?
mean?
But they're all like, oh, well, he used to work with Mr. Nobody. Oh, and look here, he also happened to be in on this drug cartel who happened to have taught him French at some point. And
We'll come back to that in a moment. So we cut the scene to Germany. This is around the world in 80 days in this movie.
it's not, but it's like every single hour they're in a different country.
Yeah, so Tej and Roman have gone off on a mission, and we see the redneck from Tokyo Drift.
I literally
I don't even know his name.
I literally kept referring to him as either the cracker or the redneck the whole movie.
He's the redneck from Tokyo Drift, and Lil Bow Wow, who's all grown up and old, and then there's some guy who's their friend. But Bow Wow looks fine.
The Asian guy was in Tokyo Drift. He was the dude who ran the diagnostics on their cars.
I know he was in. I just don't remember him.
It's just the way you said. Like there's some guy.
Some guy. I just wrote down redneck, Lil Bow Wow, and friend. I don't remember. And then they okay, so they're just hanging out. And
Roman and Tej just show up.
They just show up, okay, but they're doing some illegal shit. They have like an airplane rocket on a car, on an old shitty Pontiac.
So they do legitimate rocket work, but they also are trying to make a rocket car just for fun. And Roman and Tej show up.
And they're like, hey, y'all want to see something?
They don't announce themselves.
No.
They're just like, what's up, Ding Dong and Twinkie or something. Oh, that's what it was. They got them wrong. Like, they called Lil Bow Wow and the Asian friend Ding Dong, and they called the white kid Twinkie. And Lil Bow Wow is Twink.
And he says, I don't go by that name anymore.
And they're like, you actually went by that name? And he just like...
Shut up.
No. But they're just like, hey, check this shit out.
And they could like...
This old Datsun or something. It's a Pontiac Fiero with a rocket on it.
Keep that in mind, friends.
And there's no... And they... So, based on all of this, we're like, okay, Dom sent them. They all know Dom. Because
Everybody knows Dom.
hung out with Cracker Kid for a little bit.
At the very end of Tokyo
After
Drift.
Han died. So, we're figuring Dom called up Cracker Kid. It was like, hey, I got some friends coming. They need your help. You're our only hope.
He's like, you old son of a bitch, send him over.
You're our only hope. And
this movie's a Star Wars movie.
So we assume all that happened, and Roman and Tej show up, and they're like, oh, here's that shit we were wanting to show you. Yeah.
it looks like a shitty pod racer on Tatooine.
It does. But then, like, so they show them the test run, and it explodes, and they're like, oh, man, fuck. We didn't think it would happen that time. Because at first they're all happy. They're like, yeah! And they're like, bro, the jet plane that took off beat you. Like, yeah, but it didn't explode.
And then it does.
He's turning into Mater.
What if this guy... I need this guy from Tokyo Drift in the Cars universe, and he meets Mater. He drives Mater, and he teaches Mater how to drift.
No.
Yes.
Mater did go to Tokyo.
No, Mater knew how to drive backwards.
Yeah, and Mater went to Tokyo. Anyway.
Mater from Cars is in Tokyo Drift. Holy shit, you guys.
So at some point, they're like, well, what do you need? Why should we help you anyway? Which, we're like, what the fuck? We thought you guys knew each other. Like, you were showing them all your illegal shit. And they're like, Dominic Toretto sent us. Dun dun dun.
Well, why'd you say so?
What the fuck? You two random dudes just walked up and was like, hey guys, what's up, skinny fuck, fat fuck, cracker fuck? Like, how y'all doing? And they're like, we got a space car. But
it's so stupid.
And then
it's so stupid.
I know we've been talking about this for like 3 minutes. I'm sorry, but they just showed it to him. It's like if you showed up at a drug dealer's house and they're like, "Look at what we got," and then 5 seconds later, they're like, "Why should we tell you about our drug deals?"
Like, we're totally cops. You guys just get yourselves away. Oh my god. Okay, so
moving on.
Okay, next scene, we go back to Letty and Mia in Japan, and they get these lovely big bowls of ramen that from a street
They
vendor.
looked really good.
They looked really
good. And I don't
good.
even care about, like, ramen.
But
like,
if you're
good
gonna have ramen, you want to get it from like a street stall on some alley in Tokyo.
It's like street tacos.
Yeah,
Like,
but in Japan. So they figure out, speaking of tacos, apparently Han had sent Tom a postcard with a picture of a building in Mexico. So they're like, aha.
okay, so
This movie's ridiculous.
wait, so there's backstory to this because I guess whoever wrote this thought they were being clever. At some point in the Tokyo Drift movie, he tells Cracker, I'm gonna keep calling him that, like, well, he asked him why Han came to Japan, and he's like, well, you know how in the Old West movies, like Billy the Kid or whoever, whatever, they always end up going to Mexico to get away? Well, this is my Mexico. And Letty's like, you know that thing that Han always used to say? And I don't think it's a thing he always used to say. He said it to this one cracker kid when he asked him why he went to Japan. Like, he wouldn't have even said it exactly like that every single time. But whatever. So she's like, yeah, you remember what he used to say? And she's like, how Japan was his Mexico? Yeah. Now look over there. You look across the street, and there's just a Mexican flag in a window.
A big Mexican flag in a window.
In a spot you never would have looked for. She just happens to be looking at Mia and go, huh.
In a random alley and then scene.
And it couldn't have been a Mexican family that moved to Japan. It must be Han. There's no significance to this ramen shop that we know of.
And then they immediately get up and leave.
And they don't finish the ramen.
They don't eat the ramen. They leave these beautiful bowls of ramen that this woman worked really hard to cook.
They should have just sucked the ramen down just to be respectful.
Slurp it down. Just like eat it like people eat in an anime, just shoveling it down their mouths. Okay. And then we switch to London. Because they're bringing back all the characters. So we see that lovely Dame Helen Mirren, who is the mother of Deckard and Owen Shaw, has stolen a necklace. And she just waltzes out of a building because she's a badass bitch. And she can. And who does she run into?
Dominic Toretto.
Fucking Dominic Toretto. And she steals like a Lamborghini.
And I think that was hers.
It was hers, so she probably stole it.
And he's just flirting with her like a motherfucker.
I know, I wanted more of them. Helen Mirren probably only had 10 minutes. I wanted more of them together.
In my head, because she really likes him for some reason, in my head, they had a thing. Like, he definitely did some stuff.
A May December romance.
With Helen Mirren, and he just has that in the back of his head to tell Deckard Shaw if he ever or at the very least, it makes him feel better. Like, if Shaw's ever pissing him off, he can just remember, yeah, I fucked your mom.
Yeah, but Deckard Shaw saved his baby.
He also killed his friend, but...
He also, yeah.
And he also tried to blow up his nephew.
Yeah. Anyway, and he also blew up a hospital, but whatever.
He murdered doctors.
Deckard Shaw, how could you? So anyway, so Mrs. Shaw is in the car with Dom, and they're just kind of talking shit, and they play this, like... this stupid music sounds like it's from Austin Powers.
You sounded like a bird playing a fucking trumpet from a noir
That's
film.
That's what it sounds like. It's like a muted tremor, like... You see Union Jack flags everywhere. It's like a fucking Austin Powers movie. And
I mean, just a second before
those little UK cops are chasing them.
Just a second before it was a chase, they were playing that piece of music that made me feel like watching Fantasia.
And then they immediately switch.
I really wish they had just covered over it with Pitbull. Like,
it's just the whole thing needs to be Pitbull.
This guy on a piano playing real slow in his nice tux.
And then you hear, Mr. Worldwide!
And just for no reason, just play Pitbull over that.
Yeah,
so she's running cop cars into other cop cars, being cool and shit.
So she drops him off at this house with all these hot women in white dresses.
I kept thinking it was, in my brain, for some reason, it was Russia.
That house with all the hot women in and Hans and Shaw.
I guess it was the other one where it was Russia. Okay, that's why.
That's why I keep thinking of Hans and Shaw.
It looked like that exact same place.
So she drops him off there, and then Cardi B says something...
We don't know.
Unintelligible.
We don't know what she said at all. I'm sorry. Like, Cardi B is entertaining as music is concerned. I can't stand listening to her speak. It sounds so fake.
Well, it's It's just a difference of there are rappers who can act, like Chris Ludacris Bridges, who I think he's very good. Cardi B has talents elsewhere.
This is not that.
This
is
not her...
just, she speaks, and I hate it. And
this is not her wheelhouse.
She shouldn't talk like that ever.
And so...
That's how she talks in real life, and it's ridiculous. It's not real. She's fake. She's Iggy Azalea.
And she knows Dom for some reason. And then we find out, like, all the guns get pulled. John Cena's there. The bratty diplomat's son is there.
Dom does this, like, dumbest disarm ever.
Oh,
Jacob puts a gun up in his face, and he's just like, my gun.
Yeah, and then John Cena immediately pulls out another gun.
And he just pulls out another one.
So he gets arrested by Interpol, but then immediately, it turns out, Cardi B and all these hot bitches are in the Interpol truck, so they're like, oh, we just kidding, we just playing, Dom, and so they free him.
So somehow Shaw's mom had the thought process to put these bitches in these suits to be Interpol interception people instead of actual Interpol, and
I don't know.
Had the call wired to them instead of real Interpol. And they're like,
anyways,
Dom helped us at some point, and now I'm running shit. Like,
Dom is calling in all the favors.
Who were you?
So Jacob steals the other half of the turtle shell, and then we go back to Tokyo for a ridiculously long fight. So Letty...
Wait.
Yeah.
Where was the other half?
John Cena had it.
But where?
He got it in Monte Quinto, remember? The other one was in London.
That's what I'm asking.
I don't remember where.
Where was it in London?
It was in that house, I think.
Are we sure?
Yeah, because it just happens really... I have it in my notes. So,
God.
So Mia and Letty go into what they think is Han's apartment, and this cute girl shows up, and...
To beat the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, so she shows up, and she's like, oh, crap, get down. And these assassins come in, and it's a ridiculously long fight.
And
not that, you know... Oh, okay, I get Letty getting in a scrap or two because she's a scrapper.
Though.
But Mia,
the way they fight doesn't
not
make
believable
sense. Like, none of it. None of the people in the movie that fight the way they fight makes sense. Which, I get it, it's an action film, but like, have them do some Jackie Chan shit where you use stuff in the room.
I mean, Mia does kind of. She hits guys in the face with pots and pans.
Mia kind of made sense because she kept grabbing like skillets and shit.
But Letty did like a double flying sidekick into a guy's chest.
She ran into the room, jumped off of the couch while the other little girl that was just holding on to this guy and keeping him in the same spot. Somehow she was like, okay, I'll jump into the air using my full force, lean back, and kick him in the chest with both feet. Which, I'm kind of okay with. But also, she must have thought of that in a split second and thought he'd still be there in time for her to do it.
And then she
jumps through a window.
She does a flying knee into somebody and jumps out the window, which you said.
Like a giant flying tackle knee, which was something like Tony Jaa. Like, she was... And then she landed on him perfectly, so her knee was in his chest and her back leg was...
Yeah, so, and my dumb brain goes, you know who really needs to be in these movies? Tony Jaa. Which he was. He was in like 6 or 7, and he dies in it. So, Tony Jaa had a little moment, but whatever, she knocks him out, and then Han is across the street watching the whole time, and he just
starts snipering people.
All these guys, and he's like, hey, and he makes his little appearance, like, hey girls, what's up? So, oh my god, and then we get to this part where there's a really long chase through the streets of London. They all kind of get back together. There's a truck that has a magnetic force that's supposed to shut down the electronics, and then it just gets bigger and bigger.
But wait, okay, which, we gotta specify here, because at one point,
this movie's exhausting.
It's the van, and at another point, it's the same magnet stuff, but it's not the van. So, first... They're looking for John Cena, and Ramsey's sitting on her laptop doing her shit, and Roman and Tej are supposed to just be kind of out, ready to move. Mm-hmm. And then their electronics stop working, and Roman sees a guy with a cauliflower ear, and he's like, that guy's got a cauliflower ear. That means that they're trained to fight, so they must be enforcement or something. Which, I mean, there is logic there, but also that guy could just be into wrestling.
Yeah, maybe he does MMA on the weekends and he doesn't know how to drain his ear.
And he just fucking slams the shit out of this dude, and they knock them both out. Tej is suddenly, like, elbow expert of the
Yeah, he's like
of the
Mr.
week.
Muay Thai.
Because in a previous movie, they got their ass kicked, both of them at the same time, by one Asian dude who was like all karate-ing the shit out of them. Which I can say all that because I did Taekwondo forever.
But not Tony Jaa because he died.
And they were fighting like normal people, getting their ass beat, and here he's just like, elbow, upward, Jeet Kune Do, wah. And then they get taken when they open up the van and they're like, it's a Breaking Bad van with a magnet.
Magnets, yo!
Science, bitch. So
These giant magnets.
So that's when they
God.
get taken, and Ramsey has to climb into the truck because Dom is like,
you gotta
chase Otto, who Otto's the
rich diplomat's son.
I don't know what he is, if he's German
or something. He's the one who wants
anyway.
the Project Aries.
So she has to chase him, and she's never driven a car. So that's funny.
And she slams into every parked car in London, which I guess there are no people in these cars.
Ever.
Which led you to say, well, and then they would turn the magnets off and on, and this happens like at an increasing rate in the bigger chase scenes that happen. So like phones fly out of people's hands and newspaper stands.
Fuck all those cars.
People. But what did you say about plot armor?
Okay, so
because Roman had a point to make, but then you had a point to make.
Usually, the plot armor is that the main characters have plot armor. But I think the civilians in this world have plot armor. Because no civilian has ever shown dying, but there's definitely, like, thousands of people that they murder. Like, hundreds and thousands, probably, in between all the movies. Because they shoot cars through buildings without looking in them. They pull shit out of buildings with the magnets, and none of the stuff ever hits anybody. They fuck up cars on the side of the street, which someone could have just got in to leave for the day.
Yeah, what if they left their dog in there for 5 minutes? So
either civilians have plot armor, or they are NPCs in a video game. And this is all a video game, and that's why only the bad people die. And every once in a while, a main or side character dies, because that happens in video games too. Like you're playing story mode and they kill a friend that you met, and then but you gotta keep going. So I think this is a video game. Like this is that Ryan George movie.
Ryan
Reynolds. I wish. This is that Ryan Reynolds movie. My bad.
Yeah, and then Cypher has a moment. They kind of switch back to her for a moment, and now she's been let out of her Hannibal Lecter cage. And, well, no, she's still in the cage, but she kind of says to the spoiled diplomat guy, is like, this is the moment, if this were a movie, which I'm not saying it is, but if this were a movie, this is where the villain has a major setback.
She knows that she's in a film.
She and Roman know what's up.
She knows. She's like Deadpool.
Yeah.
Oh. And then she says he's Yoda because he's a puppet with a hand up his ass.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. So there are Star Wars references, which we always seem to turn every movie we watch into a Star Wars reference. There's pod racing. They're racing stormtroopers on Endor.
Yeah.
So now they're talking about which villain, because this guy thinks he's Luke Skywalker. I'm like, bitch, you think you're Emperor Palpatine, but you're not.
I don't even know why he thinks he's Luke Skywalker. He's very evil.
He has daddy issues.
He wants to control the missiles, but he never says, like, I'm going to do it to stop the world from fighting anymore.
No, he just wants chaos. He wants to see the world burn. He's like bitch Palpatine.
Like, I am going to be a millionaire or a billionaire or a gazillionaire.
Okay. So, they go back to Mr. Nobody's hangout, and then Jacob and his crew bust in and hold them hostage, sort of.
Well, wait.
There's so much
Jacob,
in this fucking movie.
I thought they caught Jacob.
They did. They caught Jacob, and his crew comes to rescue him.
Yeah, which they should have turned the magnets on then. To like rip them out.
Which buys
they
them
did
some
eventually,
time.
But they should have done it as soon as those people started coming in.
Yeah, they waited. So they get chased through this tunnel, and then Dom is like, "No," he says some dumb hero line.
So,
oh my god, this movie's exhausting.
So they get the pieces, they get Jacob free, and they just leave them all alive.
Yeah, they don't.
I guess because Jacob isn't gonna let them kill his family. I don't know. And then So the main group leaves, and then they turn on the magnets, and they get the smoke tear gas things come off.
The pin comes off,
and that's when they're like, okay, run. So they run out, and Dom turns into Bane.
Yeah, he closes the door and Letty's standing behind screaming, and he fights like 20 dudes. He's breaking their backs over metal guardrails
killing
and throwing them
aggressively,
over. Aggressively.
Like really not just in the heat of the moment I had to shoot. Like, he had to think, I'm going to pick this man up and I'm going to smash his back on the railing. I'm going to pick this guy up and throw him over the side. He never does anything just to incapacitate somebody.
First I'll break your body, and then I'll break your spirit.
I'm going to wrap this chain around a dude's neck and throw him over the side. That's not premeditated, but it's pretty close.
It's pretty brutal.
He had to have thought.
And then he has like a Samson pulling down the temple type of moment.
Yeah, he's like, just grabs the chains. He's like,
we're all going down. And he yanks it, and they all fall yards and yards, and well, they're in Europe, so it's meters and meters down to this water, which you would die.
And he's the only one that survives because,
of course he does.
Even though there's tons of debris, like metal and rock and shit. And
so he kind of
this is his water Disney moment.
Yeah, he has like his Disney princess moment. So he has this long sort of memory dream, whatever. And he sees, Jacob had told him, like, here's the real reason. Dad, we were in debt. Dad was going to throw the race. And so I don't know, I couldn't quite figure out, like, did he ask Jacob to mess with the fuel line?
Yeah, he said that his dad told him to, like,
do something.
They do this trick to make it look like he's going to lose on purpose or whatever it is. Whatever.
Yeah, so then Dom kind of realizes that, oh, Jacob wasn't lying. And then he sees his son, and he kind of has a moment. And then we see Letty swimming down to get him. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
And then he wakes up back in Mr. Nobody's
like, how did she get out? They just jump. They teleport everywhere. They don't show that there's an exit from this tunnel, this, whatever you would call it.
Okay, and then we get to two big scenes are kind of happening in parallel. So to make this Project Aries work, which controls all the weapons in the world, you have to have a satellite. And so the bad guys are going to shoot a satellite into space. And they're like, oh, what are we going to do? Put rockets on our backs? And Dom's like, that's exactly what we're going to do. So, oh my God. So... We're
only where we're at because of where we've been.
Yeah, it's some stupid line, and then family, whatever about family. So they pick Roman and Tej, which I think that's just done for the audience because they're the two funniest characters. So like, who are you going to send into space? Of course you're going to send Tej and Roman. They're the funniest ones.
What? Oh, we didn't even talk about... I was thinking, like, what's Han doing during all this?
I don't know.
We forgot
He's being alive.
to mention they also stole the little girl. Because she was the key.
Yes, because her parents invented Project Aries and they needed her, like, thumbprints or something.
No,
so Han had rescued her.
They used their own DNA as the, like the switch or whatever. Yeah. And she's like, well, I have both of their DNA, so I'm literally the only key.
So they invented it for some reason. Han went to steal it. Assassins came and killed this girl's parents, so he had taken her away and raised her.
This is all part of where Mr. Nobody was like, I can use somebody like you. Because you used to work with What's-Her-Name, and What's-Her-Name used to work for me.
Giselle.
Because she was infiltrating a drug cartel for me.
Braga, yeah.
Which, why would Mr. Nobody give a shit about a drug cartel? But then there was a whole thing where... Braga was connected to the Shaws, and the Shaws were like supervillains, and so maybe that's why...
Everybody has worked for Mr. Nobody at some point.
So that's when we find out about how Mr. Nobody tricked Han's death.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
Okay,
so the little girl's gone, and Han needs to get her back now.
Yeah, and I kind of don't care about that. And for some reason, she has an Australian accent, even though Han lived in Tokyo.
I'm gonna take a stab at she was dual citizen with Australia and Japan, and she got it from being there.
Maybe. So the redneck and Lil Bow Wow and their friend are in a plane, and they have this Pontiac Fiero on top of the plane. and Roman and Tej are inside in these really crappy old space suits that they got at Walmart
They
or
look
something.
like
And
diving.
and they're putting,
suits.
yeah, they do. Yeah, because Roman says something like, these diving suits from World War One, and Tej is duct taping stuff. It's real. I mean, they're going completely ridiculous at this point, and I think they're hilarious. I love those two. They're my favorite characters. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch anything with these two.
God.
I just need a Tej and Roman movie,
And
honestly.
Tej is still insane. Like, he's saying that Roman is insane for thinking that, like, they're invincible.
That's why it's called the gaslighting. Roman has been gaslit this entire time. He knows how ridiculous this is, but they're all telling him he's crazy.
With all the evidence stacked up, Roman seems the most like to be true. Like, they literally can't die.
And yet they ridicule everything he says. Gaslighting.
And I want to see, like, the 10th movie just be, like, 10 years later. They're all sitting around, they're having, like, I mean, the whole crew is having a picnic or a barbecue or whatever, and Mr. Nobody comes in, they're like, no,
go away.
we're all clean now. And he's like, what? Yeah, we were all on meth and PCP and coke the entire time. That's how we survived all that shit. I've been blasting testosterone, and the fucker over there has been doing LSD, and that's how he got all his mind powers, and we were on all the drugs. That's the only reason we survived. But we're clean now because I have a son and I care about him.
Yeah, so that's just our hope for the next movie. But anyway, they shoot Tej and Roman into space in this junky old car to shoot down the satellite. And meanwhile, it culminates in, like, the big chase scene where everybody in the world is in some kind of vehicle. They're chasing after...
And they're just driving down the streets.
It's exhausting.
They're just driving through the streets of London in these giant army vehicles.
And they're trying to get the Project Aries ball.
So,
yeah.
And there's three. There's Dom in a car, Letty and Mia
are together.
in a car, and somebody in another car. Han? Yeah. And they're taking...
Han and Ramsey are together, I think.
Yeah, and eventually Han and Ramsey, like, take over the vehicle that has the little girl in it.
Yeah, they rescue her. Oh, and then something weird happens. Like, the magnets keep taking the weapons away. He's fighting with this guy, and, like, he grabs a knife, gets taken away by the magnet. He grabs a gun, gets taken away by a magnet. He grabs a little bomb. And
I think they finally turned the magnet off. Or no, he was standing in front of it. So yeah,
and he throws it against this guy.
It's a Batman bomb.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally, if you watch any of the Batman, usually it's the animated movies, but he has these little discs that sometimes he throws them on people, and it's like a propeller, like, or not a propeller, but like propulsion, and it shoots them away, or if it's like a robot or something, it explodes.
And the guy...
And that's exactly what he throws on them.
And the guy says, I think he's speaking French, because they show subtitles, and he was like, why would you blow up all of us?
You're gonna kill us all.
And Han answers in English, not all of us, and he opens the hatch, and the guy flies out and dies and explodes.
So, Han speaks French.
I guess.
Which,
and
cool.
Meanwhile, speaking of Batman, John Cena is grapple hooking through London, and Dom is trying to follow him. I think it's in this. No, was that earlier? That was earlier.
Oh wow, we missed.
There's so much. We're an hour and 15 minutes in.
We forgot. This is how they That's how they captured him. Was the zip line thing?
Yes, that's right. Because Dom jumped through a window and got him.
So
because that's logical.
Jumping back earlier in the movie, the chase where Dom caught Jacob, John Cena, he was zip lining through the city. Like, he shot a zip line, he would make a new one and zip line, and it just looks weird. Like, it seems too perfect. Like, it's perfect straight line.
A perfect line. Yeah.
And then at some point, Dom jumps off a building and tackles him onto a vehicle a couple of times. And at another point, he jumps and tackles him through a window, and that's where they're in a building where they catch him.
There's basically two big chase scenes in London. So there's the earlier one where they capture Jacob and then he gets free, and then this one at the end.
This one. They terminate Jacob, or they try to.
The diplomat guy was like, "Oh, I used you for what I needed. Haha, I'm going to kill you now." And so he sends his goon to kill Jacob. And I guess Don kind of... On top of a vehicle. Because that's the best place to execute somebody. And he flies off, and Dom kind of figures out what's going on, so...
So, not only does he think, I'll catch him with a car...
Of course.
Which He's done with himself.
With Letty.
He's done with Letty. Okay. Sure. Drive underneath him because he gets thrown off. Just drive underneath him and catch him. Nope. He thinks, I'm going to drive into this car over here, and it's going to, roll and then turn sideways. John Cena's going to land on that with his back.
Soft as a pillow.
And
just
then
flutters down.
That vehicle will skid over to the vehicle that Mia is in, and he will grab onto that one and climb up.
Yeah, totally.
And now he's not dead.
I don't know why that doesn't seem logical to you. Gaslighting, you guys. Oh, and also we get one Wilhelm scream, and it's not even from a person. It's just these two random cars kind of fly off, and you hear ah. Like, why?
And during all of this, Letty and Mia are like turning
the magnet
with
thing on
with
and
the
off.
magnets, and they're shooting cars away and sucking them in and shooting them away, sucking them in. They're dragging cars in front of the big military vehicles, and I mean like every car on the street. And we don't know if there are people in these cars. They shoot cars through buildings, like in and out of buildings.
No dead civilians.
They murdered so many fucking people for family.
Yeah.
Family.
And meanwhile, in space, Tej and Roman are up there, and Roman kind of calms down. He's like, you know what I can do? I can drive. And he...
Oh, yeah, well, they made it. They had to have the launch.
Yeah.
The launch where he...
So they're up in orbit.
They didn't do as much of the nitro thing than whenever they're in cars.
You'd think they'd have the big Nas moment.
Yeah, they didn't. The Nas moment where they slam their head against the seat, that happens every time they use Nas in a car. But when they're in a rocket...
They didn't even show Nas in this movie.
They didn't have this... They did one time, and it's in the flashback.
Oh, okay.
Against Jacob, because he's like, you hit it too soon.
And then Roman drives the Pontiac Fiero through the satellite.
He literally tells Tej, like, bro... Shut the fuck up. This is my shit.
You know the science, but
He's
I can drive.
I'm here to drive. Like, you're not driving.
You're floating.
You have a rocket.
You're floating.
You're in a space car. And so it's not even just that he drives through the satellite. They figure out that they can't magnet the satellite. They're magneting the shit out of everything. They magnet cancer out of patients and shit. They magnet this fucking satellite, or they try to, and it won't work. So they're like, well, we're screwed. What are we supposed to do? And Roman's like, we'll drive through it.
And they do.
And Tej is like, no way, bro, that's going to kill us. He's like, do you want to live for something? Or you want to die for something? And they have like, which I appreciated Roman's whole thing, because during his speech, they could just show other action pieces that were happening.
Yeah, that was cool. It was just like, it gives me a little break from all the chase happening in London. I didn't need to see any more of that.
I didn't have to pay attention. I didn't have to listen to them talk. I didn't have to think about story.
They rescued Jacob. They're all friends now.
Saw them doing things.
Yeah.
And at some point during all that, they're about to shoot through the satellite, which they do, and it just breaks apart, and they totally survive. Even though he just talked about, like, maybe we're not invincible. Maybe we really just gotta live for something. And then they still live.
You're still invincible.
Yeah, but at some point this turns into this... So they finally flip the military vehicle, and it slides forever.
For
infinite momentum.
Dom is in it at this point.
Infinite momentum. They're chasing him in other vehicles. John Cena helped them. Jacob helped them because it's like...
Switch sides now.
I can help you, bro, because you helped me. Even though he only switched sides because they tried to kill him. Which,
family.
Okay, whatever. And then, at some point, the physics... Oh, dear God.
Physics is everything. Tej said so.
So, at some point, Charlize Theron has gotten out. That's why they tried to kill Jacob. Like, she brags about it. She's like, guess who's out of the box? Because I promised that diplomat, like, a hand job or something.
So and she's working the case now.
So she's gonna shoot the vehicle.
She's in a plane.
The long, like, it's got, like, 3 cargo units. And Dom is like, oh, okay, well, first, he flips it. He somehow flips it over onto its wheels, and it's still drivable. It still goes.
Still.
And then he's like, oh, she's going to shoot me with missiles. I will turn exactly how I need to turn so that her missiles will explode the part of the vehicle I want, which will get it rolling. And then at the last second, I will jump out of the driver door, and this burning, rolling thing will smash into her jet and explode her.
And the evil diplomat son guy is in the vehicle, so he dies.
And during all that rolling period, Dom was just walking through it like normal, like he wouldn't be getting smashed around.
Yeah, he's just making his way to the exit, and then what
very
does he do at the very
CGI,
end?
just jumps out of the fucking thing, watches as
he kneels down like a superhero and looks at it.
Yeah, he just stares at it. Like, yeah, bitch, I knew that shit would work. Like, he's not amazed. I would be amazed. Like, I'm fucking awesome.
I'm invincible.
He's just like...
That's immediately when I would die. And then Charlize Theron's like, shit, boom. And we think she dies, but then it turns out the plane it was a drone. So she's alive. She's just off in some hangar somewhere.
She's ready to be the villain for number 10, which
yeah.
I don't care. I don't like her. I don't care. I don't think she's entertaining.
What kind of dumb haircut will she have?
I just don't like her. I also don't like Charlize Theron because she bragged about beating up stuntmen on one of her movies. Like,
you're not really supposed to do
that. You're not
that.
Good at what you do.
Then
if
that
you're
means
just,
you don't have any control.
Yeah, if you're just kicking the shit out of people, I did my own stunts. Sometimes I'd hit them and they said it hurt. Oh, stop hitting them, you idiot.
Anyway, so she's alive. And then I guess that's it. So Tej and Roman just happen across a space station.
With Russians?
And they're like, why do they look like minions? That was funny. And so they get rescued, and I guess they spend a while in the space station, and they get back home. And so of course they have a backyard barbecue.
Because every movie has to finish with a barbecue.
But Jacob is there.
But
I kind of thought Jacob would be there.
But they are back in California.
They are back in California.
So
they're still trying to rebuild the house that Deckard Shaw blew up.
Like, that's a little confusing because that doesn't change why Dom was in hiding at the cabin.
Yeah, why would they be back there just out in the open? Okay, so why are we even questioning this? The only thing I really questioned was, like, Han speaks French? I accepted everything else.
There was one other thing you, like, question as...
at the very end. So the redneck guy from Tokyo Drift is talking to Lil Bow Wow, and they're drinking beers. Of course, it's Corona. And then Han walks out, and he just smiles. He's like, oh, there's my friend. Okay, if I had thought someone was dead, and they just walked into a back... I started screaming. I was like, it's a ghost! It's a ghost!
I would just be angry.
And so then he's like, I heard you were alive. So we thought, okay, this isn't the first time. Like, that would be a really weird reaction if he still thought Han was dead and that was his first reaction.
Like, he should have,
hey, man, what's up?
At the very least, reacted like Tej, which I don't think Tej and Roman barely knew Han.
I think Tej is a hugger.
They knew him for like 3 days in Brazil, and they were like, he's here, and they hugged the shit out of him. Like,
Tej is a hugger.
You barely know him.
These guys survived driving a car in space. They're going to hug everybody.
It's so, okay, and whatever. We won't talk about every little fucking thing.
That's the end. That's the end of the movie. Oh my god, this movie.
So, Dom walks over to his shed or whatever it is in his backyard, and he's asked his son, like, you better say grace. And he's like, but I don't know what to say. And he's like, say whatever's in your heart.
like, this is a 4-year-old. Anything could come out of his mouth.
He's like, yeah, he's 4. He could be like, Aunt Mia has a vagina or something. Like, yeah. Because he's learning about that stuff. Or whatever. Like, and that's it.
There's an empty chair and they're waiting for someone to show up.
Where's the buster or whatever he says, talking about O'Connor, and you hear, and then you just see a blue car pull in, and then
Dom smiles, and that's the end. And then there were credits, and then
okay, so this is the part where if you don't want to see like I don't even know why you would give a shit one way or another, but there's an after credit scene if you don't want to know about it.
It's funny. It's so weird.
So,
but if you don't want to know what it is, go buy the DVD or rent it or something and watch go past the credits. There's a really funny, weird scene at the end that makes no sense.
It's so we... Okay, here we go.
Okay,
so
here we go.
see this... There's this dark room, and there's just this guy in sweats hitting a bag.
It looks like the LL
it,
Cool J music video. Like, Mama said knock you out. So it looked like that.
And it...
Kind of low kicks. Just a little bit. A little low.
I mean...
But, you know.
They're leg kicks.
The back kick was okay.
Actually, I think... Anyway.
There was one back kick.
So we're like, okay. Who is it? Who's it gonna be? And I was like, it's probably Deckard Shaw. He's the only one that would be doing this.
And he's a karate guy. What's his real name?
McGuffin? I don't know.
Or something.
Yeah. Anyway.
What's his real name?
I don't... Jason Statham. That's what I said. He would probably do low kicks. So anyway. Yeah. So at some point he stops. He like pulls his hood off.
And my reaction's like, yes! Yes, I wanted it to be Deckard Shaw, because he's like my second favorite. He's my third favorite character. Roman, Tej, and then Deckard Shaw.
It's like at the end of Split when
Bruce Willis
shows
we're like,
up.
yeah! Woo!
Tybalt! And he takes a drink, which I'm like, what? You left the hood on literally just for us, just so you go like...
Who is that beneath that hoodie?
And then he unzips the bag, and he's like, alright, you gonna tell me what I want to know?
And there's a guy in there.
And there's
this bloody beaten up guy, and so it's literally a body bag that he's been punching and kicking.
Like, I can give you all the info. And he sounds like Peter Lorre. And I would give you. And he's like, you mean what I got on this? And he shows a little flash drive, and the other dude's like, oh shit. And he's just like. That's what I thought. And he hears a knock on the door. He's like, shut up. And he closes it up.
Zips the guy back up
He hits it one more time, and the guy's like, ah! And why wasn't he crying the whole time? He was like kicking the shit out of him and punching him. And that bag never screamed until he was like, shut up. So he walks over to the door, and he opens it up, and you, like for half a second, you just see Han go like...
Looks up. And then Deckard's face is like, oh shit.
Which, I don't know where that's gonna go, because
Deckard bragged about killing him, but he didn't really.
Actually kill him, but he didn't know he didn't kill him.
So maybe he thought he killed him.
But also Han, I don't know what Han's gonna do here, because he is not notorious, but like, he consistently cannot fight. He's not like Tej and Roman. He never learns how to fight. He was getting the shit kicked out of him this entire movie, and he finally got, like, a bomb and threw it at a guy. Like, that's his one thing, is he did that. He didn't do that much in general in the whole movie. But anyway, so I don't know, it's not like he's gonna show up and be like, I'm exacting revenge. Because unless he's the one in the door, and then he's like, guess what? And then fucking Deckard Shaw's like, what? And then Dominic Toretto like walks out from behind the other side, and he's
got
like,
a job for you.
Me. He just beats the shit out of him. So that's Fast 9.
Was this a hate watch or a guilty pleasure or somewhere in between?
Okay, so
we went to see this in the theater during the pandemic.
Before it came out, we're like, it's got to just keep getting more insane. We want the insanity to continue, and it did that.
It did. It delivered.
But, like, especially because of doing this show where we're like, we're gonna talk shit about everything, we had to question every single thing in there, because none of it.
It's just to see the evolution of, they start just like, we drive cars fast, and we steal VCRs, to super spy, I'm gonna control all the nuclear weapons in the world.
I can yo-yo a car.
I'm gonna drive a car into space. If whoever is making money off of this, good for you.
Like,
keep that golden goose laying those eggs.
It's sort of amazing. So if you just turn your brain off and you watch these, if you have like one time a year where you're like, it's summer or something, I feel like watching the Fast and Furious movies. Everybody looks like they're sweating in those movies, and they got hot females and Hispanic music. Perfect. Summer. Especially for Texas. And great. But if it's just by itself,
it blows your mind, and not in a good way. It makes you question reality, which is gaslighting.
If this was a standalone movie, no one would love this movie. Nobody.
No, it would be panned forever. But now everybody's like, oh my god, did you see that?
Like, They go into space.
And of course I want to see the 10th one. Of course I do. I want another Hobbs and Shaw movie.
I want dinosaurs.
I love that movie. I want a Jurassic Park crossover.
I want Dominic to ride a raptor.
Yeah. I think that's the most Hollywood you could get. Dominic Toretto on a velociraptor.
I guess it's still a guilty pleasure, even though we bitched about every single thing.
It's a guilty pleasure, but it's exhausting.
The fact that we can bitch about all that and yet still enjoy it makes it a guilty pleasure.
It's like doing tequila shots, which it's fun in the moment, but you're going to pay for it later.
I mean, I hate tequila, so that's not for me, but...
I do too, for different reasons. So... Can we go have chocolate cake now?
I suppose.
Okay.
So wait, do we have any recommendations? We didn't even think about recommendations.
We didn't even think about it because it was so... Honestly, I mean, these are fun movies. So go watch all the Fast and Furious movies. I think I like my favorite ones out of this series. These are my recommendations. The 7th movie, which is Roman screaming when a car flies out of a plane. And they drive the car from one building to the other in Dubai. And that one's fun. And then Hobbs and Shaw is a lot of fun. So those are my 2 recommendations out of this series. Those are my favorite movies.
7 is probably peak Fast and Furious, like, fun.
Just fun, silly.
Just fun. Like, it's the perfect amount of ridiculous.
But not so much that they're shooting cars into space.
Yeah, it doesn't literally break the laws of physics most of the time. Like, even the car flying through other buildings, technically...
Maybe that could happen. I don't know.
Maybe happen. But that one's peak crazy Fast and Furious. If you want like the best overall film, like an actual film, I'm gonna say 3. Tokyo Drift to me is, and it's like it's travel porn for Japan. Like you want to go to Japan and see their rooftop soccer fields or whatever, and their all the lights and the glamour and all that shit. All their, I don't know, game rooms and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to see all that stuff and be a part of it. I can't think of anything else that would be...
I think staying within the series is good.
Just because Vin Diesel, the original Triple X.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's another, like, movie. Criminal kind of just... you know, extreme sports criminal goes into the spy business, and it's way more low-key than this. And
he's funny. It's like, I got so used to watching the Fast and Furious movies, I wasn't used to hearing Vin Diesel talk very much. And he's pretty funny in Triple X. He talks a lot of shit. He's funny. He tells a lot of jokes. He's funny. And so, yeah, I like him in that. I like him in the Riddick movies. I like him as a criminal talking shit to people.
So, yeah, that was...
So how to... Oh, you guys, thank you for sticking it out for us. So how to find us, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Anchor, Spotify, and iTunes.
Subscribe to them all.
Tell us what you want us to watch for our guilty pleasures or hate watches, or just somewhere in between where we love Fast and Furious, but fuck, is it exhausting. So join our cult, be my victim. I want to go have cake now.
That is where we shall end this.
Bye.
On cake.